Hello there. Welcome to our Cohort 3 Roadshow. This roadshow is actually an ongoing roadshow that we're having for the launch of Cohort 3. And really, we want to tell you a bit more about Cohort 3, get you to understand a bit about what the program has to offer. And we're really excited about Cohort 3, so the roadshow is just there to give you all the information that you need. Today also we have two guests with us. We have Parthiven Shan and Nadia Jalil, both founders in our cohorts, and they were going to weigh in on the topic of how I pivoted, right? Which is a very interesting topic, I imagine, for startups and scale-ups. Without much ado, I'm going to jump into a short program briefing first, just about some general information about ScaleUp Malaysia. So maybe let me put up some slides here. All right. So that was my welcome address. I'm Andre Sikara. I'm actually the managing partner of ScaleUp Malaysia, together with two other managing partners. You probably have heard from Azealia Tong before and Charlie Tay, and also Aaron Sama, who has also hosted quite a few of our roadshows. As I mentioned before, I'm just going to jump a bit into about ScaleUp Malaysia. Some of you who are new to us may not know who we are, what we do, how we go about things. So just a brief introduction about that. After that, we will jump to a fireside chat with Nadia and Parthiven. And then we'll give you a bit of a program briefing at a later part of the show before ending up on a question and answer. So the question and answer, you could actually put in your questions into the comments if you're on social media. Feel free to do that because we will get the questions in the booth itself in where we are at. Yeah. So let me just jump to the next point. So just a bit about ScaleUp Malaysia. So who are we? ScaleUp Malaysia is actually an accelerator focusing on scale-ups. And when we talk about scale-ups, we're talking about companies which, a bit beyond the ideation stage and really have kind of hit a bit of a product market fit. So ideally, you're a company with a product and perhaps have sold it to a few customers. The philosophy of the ScaleUp Accelerator really is, the group of us, the founders, really have a particular philosophy, and it's just that we don't want to build companies that are, like the Silicon Valley ethos of burning cash and not being profitable at all. The idea for us is really to build high revenue growth companies with a very clear and distinct path to profitability. Internally, we call this the Pegasus model. The idea is just that you can grow fast, but we also need to focus a bit on how you're going to be a profitable company down the line. So who should join this accelerator? We're looking at companies, as I mentioned before, that have product market fit. So product market fit just implies that the product is kind of out there. You may have pilot customers, you may have free customers, you may have perhaps a few key customers, and it kind of shows that the product just has a positive need in the market, and that kind of allows you to say that you can have product market fit. Second one is that you are generating some revenue. So I did say that you could have free users, and I'll just clarify that point in a while. But ideally, you should also be generating some revenue. And we're looking at around a minimum of 300K in the last 12 months. But we have taken in companies with less. It's just that I think we would have to weigh in all the factors on this slide. Yeah. The other thing, and probably one of the most key things, is that we do want strong founders. We want founders who are passionate about what they do, who really are capable of building teams and really have that kind of vision to build a great company. The other thing that we're looking for is companies that have the potential for regional scalability. So when we talk about regional scalability, we're talking about a growth path that leads to other ASEAN markets and perhaps beyond. So, it would be companies that whose business model or technical platform provides them an ability to scale beyond just the Malaysian borders. We have gotten questions before about what if I'm just a Malaysian type market. So again, we take all of this into what, because if you have a particular very strong depth in the Malaysian market and can capture a very large market within Malaysia also, that is put into consideration also. The other thing, and probably one of the key things, is a large addressable market. Now, I can't stress this enough about the large addressable market, only because A lot of times companies come in and, because they haven't kind of, figured out what their total addressable market is, it doesn't come across that, that they kind of understand what you're doing. So it's really important to actually quantify your market. And it's a really key question that needs to be answered, especially when you're going to do fundraising. Yeah. So I mentioned before that we do take these things in totality. So it's not any that, you have to tick all the checkboxes, but sometimes you just want to make sure that these are the key focus. So if you are not sure whether you should apply, please do, and then we will actually weigh in all these points on the criteria. Who's the team behind ScaleUp? So, there are 6 of us, 2 founding partners, Dr. Siva and Renuka. They actually come in with a lot of experience, and some of you may have been through CGP, which is Coach and Grow program from Cradle. Some of you have heard of them because they've been providing programs in the ecosystem since 10 years ago, right? Under a different company called Profisio. So they bring in a lot of depth of knowledge about the ecosystem, the connections with the ecosystem, but also the understanding of what startups and scale-ups really need, right? So they're really master coaches in that respect. The rest of us come with a kind of different types of backgrounds. I come from a product technology background, so product and technology is what excites me, right? So I weigh in on the technology and the product type things that the companies may come in with. Shani comes with a background in investment banking, but she was also the co-founder of Baby Dash, so very strong both corporate and entrepreneurial experience. Aaron, you may know from being the founder of VD, which was previously called Touristly. Yes, that's right. Previously called Touristly. And they got acquired by AirAsia, and he was the director at AirAsia.com before he left. So all of us come in with both different types of domain knowledge. Zelia also comes in with, she's our fundraiser extraordinaire. So she helps raise funds both for ScaleUp and also the companies within our cohort. So we all come in with a different kind of angle about the companies, and really that's what you're tapping into when you join the ScaleUp Accelerator. So just a bit about cohort 1, we had 20 companies, and then there was whittled down to about 10. We invested in those 10 companies, and really these companies have improved amazingly during the last 2 years. So they came in at the end of 2019 when we started the program. 2 of them raised from VCs, 3 of them from venture debt sources, and 1 from non-VC sources, right? A lot of them, in spite of the pandemic, grew. And I suppose that's one of the key things that we want to focus on also. TixCarte, for example, we will be hearing from Parthiven later. They went through a series of ideas, and I'll let Parthiven kind of weigh in on that, and how that pandemic affected them and how they actually used it to their advantage. Companies in cohort 2 actually came in, at the height of the pandemic, I would say. It was just almost at the beginning of this year, right? That the middle of last year that they came in, and it was really the height of the pandemic. And what was interesting about it was the fact that, and together with our partner Quest Ventures, we were looking for companies that really could adapt to the whole changing environment and situation of the pandemic. So we found our companies, and these companies really have really shown great growth since that time. So collectively, they also have raised 8 million mid-program, which is amazing. But one thing I really want to point out is really an aspect which no one talks about is the diversity aspect of it. If you look across the board here, we have companies like MyBump Media, Kiddo Care, Homa, MMC are all led by female founders, and we have a very strong, we feel very strong in the fact that we do need a very diverse group of people to be able to build companies. That goes point from race, ethnicity, and gender for sure. Yeah, so if you are a female founder, please join us too. We really, you just look at the ScaleUp team, it's half 50-50 in terms of male-female breakdown. Okay, and in terms of the verticals that they come in, again, very wide-ranging. So MyBump's in advertising, FIFO's in agri-tech, Pullman's a company which is in the car industry. Earth is kind of a social enterprise for recycling and recycling electronics. House does an app for for managing workforces. So there's a lot of diverse companies here, and we welcome that diversity. So instead of me talking about the companies, let's just hear a bit about what the companies say about us. Patrick Martinen, who is the CEO of TanaLink, he said it's like an MBA in 6 weeks. So if you want to hear a bit more about that, you can watch his testimonial on our website later. Earth CEO Mo, he said during the program, they recorded their highest revenue yet. Penny from Homa, that the coaches are very hands-on, which we'll come to later. And Hubert, the CEO of QuadB, said, that they usually hear of accelerators like this in Silicon Valley, but really it was really good for him, and it was intensive from what he told me. So if you really want to hear more about the testimonials and not just hear from me, which is probably not the person you want to hear from, but go to our website, scaleup.my/cohort3, to hear more of the testimonials and hear it straight from the founders themselves. Or if you're really interested, drop a line in the comments, and we can put you in touch with one of the founders who can then talk to you directly. So the other thing about it is that we are actively investing, and it was kind of it made us feel good, to be honest. Tech in Asia called us one of the most active investors in Southeast Asia, right? So in the past 24 months, we've had these 21 companies come in to the program. And really with Cohort 3, we want to increase that level of investments. And we really want to work with really good and great companies who are on the cusp of scaling up. All right. So interestingly, we had our official launch just yesterday. And maybe I'll just call on the team to play a short video about that was played during the official launch that launched Cohort 3. Sounds like the end of the video. All right, let me just continue on the rest of the slides. So what's special about Cohort 3 really is a partnership or partnerships that we have made with different entities. So one of the key program partners is with Magic. And for those of you who don't know Magic, it's the Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Center. And Magic has over the years done really great work with working with startups and working with scale-ups, and really has seeded the whole ecosystem and made it really vibrant. So one of the two key initiatives that they have, which we are kind of working with, is the National Technology Innovation Sandbox. And that is really for companies which great technology and really want to kind of test bid their technology in certain focus areas. Those key areas are medical and healthcare, manufacturing, agriculture, education, travel and tourism. So with this with the accelerator and our partnership with Magic, you have green lane access for all the ScaleUp Malaysia companies. Yeah. The other part about it is the global market fit program. So as I mentioned before, one of the criteria for getting into the accelerator program is about regional, the prospect of regionalization and going global. And so global market fit program is a program that's run by Magic to be able to help companies kind of springboard into other countries. In 2021, we're concentrating on India and Indonesia. But really, with ScaleUp Malaysia, we'll also look at where else you can through all the partners that we have. Yeah. So again, green lane access for all ScaleUp Malaysia companies. So as we said, it's really the same program that we had in cohort 1, cohort 2, but it's now supercharged, right? We have, and you'll listen a bit more about, if you go to the testimonials, we'll actually hear that it's a very high-touch program, right? So we have a core 4-month high-touch program, and the program briefing that we'll be playing later will kind of give you that feel. The other thing is that we brought on a lot of program partners. So these program partners all add particular kind of value to the companies that are coming into the accelerator. So these are the program partners that we have. Bear in mind that the benefits do not just go to the top 10 that ultimately we invest in. It goes to any of the companies who go through our program, which includes the top 20. Yeah. So there are benefits for those who actually make top 20 also. So just a brief one, and I'll give you examples of the kind of benefits that these guys provide. AWS, for example, provides about 25K USD credits to the top 10. Stripe also provides some credits to companies who are looking to use their payment gateway to regionalize in ASEAN or beyond, right? So some of these are really monetary, but the other things that you don't see is probably the technical expertise that they also weigh in. So AWS has great programs. I got some of the CDOs in cohort 1, cohort 2 on their join the CTO program, and it's really AWS way of getting a lot of CTOs together to discuss problems on the technology sphere, right? So they all weigh in on their own in different areas. And this time, in cohort 2, we had just Quest Ventures, but this time in cohort 3, we have 2 great investors, Indelible and Quest. Now, Quest Ventures is out of Singapore, and so they already have a regional focus also. They're looking very much, perhaps more at ASEAN, but they also look beyond that because they have reached out to Kazakhstan also. So they are looking at companies which they can regionalize, really definitely there. Indelible Ventures is slightly different. They're slightly newer, run by a man called Kevin Brooklyn. And they look at primarily more into the B2B area because of their focus. The fund is on that side of things. So he's definitely looking for companies that have the capability to perhaps scale even to the US. So definitely that's an interesting angle for a lot of companies who want to join the ScaleUp Accelerator. What I can say about what brings us all together is the fact that we all align on the idea that in Malaysia we actually have a lot of great companies and a lot of great founders who really are kind of undiscovered, right, and untapped kind of thing. And the ScaleUp partners and team really feel that way, and which is why we all got together because I've been an entrepreneur before in Malaysia, and I know how difficult it is to get out to the markets. And really, you just need that support crew to actually, and sometimes just show you things that may be obvious now or past the point, but was not obvious to me at the time, right? And it's really that mentorship and this kind of network connections that we all bring together. So apart from the same great program, Supercharged with partners, we will also have Demo Day partners, which is towards the end of the program. We will introduce to investors who are beyond Indelible and Quest. These include a broad range of VCs and venture partners, including Sequoia, Sunway Ventures, Golden Gate Ventures, RHL, to mention a few, right? So let's make this happen together. Just a brief recap. We have a very strong structured program, which you'll hear a bit more about during the program briefing later after this. We have a world-class team. We are run by entrepreneurs and really by industry veterans. We have strategic investments from VCs, 250K from a VC and ScaleUp Malaysia. We really run the program unlike any other accelerator because we provide the external C-suite kind of management. And as I mentioned before, all of us come from a different domain. So we will sit with you actually over a couple of years to actually work with you. And the ecosystem that we're in, where you can connect with investors, corporates, and partners. All right. So what are you waiting for? If you are really interested, and I hope you are, please head over to www.scaleup.my cohort 3. You'll find more information. You also can watch a few more of the testimonials and hear from the founders themselves. But please go and apply now. Yeah? All right, that's the end of my slides. So perhaps we should cut over and I should bring on my two guests. Hello. Hi, Parthiven. Hi. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Andre. Good morning.
Morning. So it's good to see you guys. I mean, I talk to you guys more on like one-to-ones and stuff like that, but we've never really kind of sat together in a kind of data session or so to speak. Today we actually, we brought you guys because I think among the cohort, you guys have a special stories to tell about the idea of pivoting and how you went about that. So perhaps before we start all of that, maybe I can just invite Nadia maybe to give an introduction about herself and your company.
All right, thanks, Andre, and thanks for having me as well. I think before I start, I just want to wish and also congratulate ScaleUp Malaysia for the launch yesterday, and also happy birthday to you. Pleasure to have me on your birthday.
Thank you, Nadia.
Celebration, I hope today. So I'm Nadia. I founded MyBump Media. We're an advertising technology platform. We provide brands with offline and online reach through car advertising, online endorsement. We also do human billboards, if I can say it that way, and also consumer feedback. And in turn, we allow our ambassadors to earn passive income through the advertising jobs.
All right. Great. Maybe Parthiven, maybe you can give you a brief introduction of yourself and your company.
Sure. Good morning, Andre. Yeah, and happy birthday too.
Thank you.
So happy to be part of ScaleUp. I think it's amazing that it's 3 cohorts now, and congratulations on the launch yesterday. So I'm Parthiven. I'm co-founded TixCarte. We are a tech player in the tourism sector. So we are basically a B2B supplier of attractions and activity tickets. As you may see later, this is definitely not how we started, and we pivoted along the way, which I'm sure I'll be more than happy to share along the show. Yeah.
All right. Maybe before we jump into the the business side of things, and this is a question actually because Nadia, I know you started off as a lawyer. Right, and I think on a personal basis, I think that's the most interesting pivot because now you're an entrepreneur running and a CEO of an advertising company. So how did that happen?
Yeah, I like to say that marketers and advertisers have more fun. But on a different note, I actually had the pleasure of working in corporate law for about 5 years before starting MyBump Media, and also I noticed that being a lawyer is awesome, but at the end of the day, law is a very structured system, and it's all about following what has already been decided and looking into precedents and applying that moving forward. But when I started doing advertising and looking into industry, I've also found that communication is key, even in law, right? But advertising takes it to a different level. It's a mass form of communication that kind of moves forwards. It looks into molding stories, growth, paves direction of companies, even when it comes to building brand stories, and those possibilities are what excites me and keeps me going.
Okay. So it's a combination of things actually. It's not just one, I suppose.
Yeah.
And how about you, Parthiven? Because I know you come from a software engineering technical background, Parthiven. What drove you to take this entrepreneurial thing?
Well, I think a part of me always wanted to be running my own business on the entrepreneurship journey, but of course, like what Nadia pointed out, it's a completely different ballgame. Understanding wanting to do a product and running a business is 2 different things, right? There's so many aspects of business that you probably do not anticipate when you're thinking of developing a system or developing a product. A business comes with proper customer segments, the need for the market, the pricing points and all that. But it has been an extremely interesting journey, and it was helped with us joining ScaleUp. they showed us the way into a lot of the different areas in business. But it has been a really exciting journey for me and my co-founders as well. Yeah.
Great. I mean, I think, I suppose the question is like, did you already have the mindset of an entrepreneur before you jumped into it, or was it something that you jumped into it first and then slowly it dawned on you, okay, we've got to work anything out, the idea that any challenge comes across, you just got to face it, right? What do you think came first? Was it what influenced you? Was it the mindset first, or was it jumping first and then the mindset came along?
No, I think it was always jumping first, and then we started to look at areas that we needed to improve on. But it was definitely, jumping into the whole entrepreneurship, and then only realizing, the gaps that we needed to fill in our team and myself as well. Yeah.
Okay. I think that mindset's important. So I suppose that kind of jumping in first and trying to adapt to everything that comes across is also in the same way, I suppose, it's a mindset about pivoting. So, and I suppose maybe we just go into this, is that a lot of entrepreneurs might say that we're willing to pivot, right? We're open to it, but what does it really look like for what does a pivot really look like, and then what does it really mean? What do you say, Nadia?
So for us, it kind of came to, there was an opportunity that was available coming from a challenge in the market. And when we started out, we were very much focused on car app advertising. So the idea of car app advertising began when we were looking into social impact initiatives through a pre-accelerator that we joined earlier on in our when we started. And seeing cars and billboards, we're thinking, why can't we just mash the two together and allow drivers to earn passive income? So fast forward, we've kind of really dived deep into that segment of services, and COVID happened, right? And from there on, it was lockdown. No one can get out of the house. So it was a pretty challenging and eye-opening moment for us. And at that point of time, we also kind of looked back and go back to our dream board, so to say, and try to identify why are we really doing this in the first place. And that got us to look into all the past feedbacks that we got from our ambassadors. I think one of the feedback that kind of struck us emotionally and also pumped us up was one ambassador gave a feedback. She was using some of the funds and compensation she received from the campaign to kind of support her childcare needs. She just found out that her kid was lactose intolerant, and lactose-free milk is very expensive. So I think from there on, it just kind of occurred to us, it's not about building a major scale platform. It's about impacting the lives. How small it can be, it doesn't matter, right? So we're thinking, if we can have this, give this experience to one user, to one ambassador, how can we replicate this more? And from there, we kind of expanded our services, not just from car app advertising. Now we're providing CrowdStorm. So in a way, you just put on a t-shirt, go to a mall or go to a specific location and earn income for advertising. We're doing online endorsements that our ambassadors can also earn from sharing about brands on their social media, and consumer feedback, allowing brands to kind of get in-depth insights about how consumers are engaging with their brand. So I think it kind of worked well for us in terms of direction. I think for companies as well that are looking to pivot, try to look into the main reason or why you started. And from there, you may be able to chart a better direction of areas you can expand your business or kind of pivot your business into.
Okay, but would you say that a major factor for your pivot, at least, was the pandemic, as you mentioned?
Oh, definitely. Life-changing. There are some businesses that do well, some businesses that were heavily impacted. We are unfortunately on the other side. But I think now we've kind of worked our way, scaled up to the other spectrum.
Very nice. Very nice. How about you, Parthiven? What was the driver for you for the pivot?
Well, I think there were signs that we needed to pivot even before the pandemic itself, But having said that, I think whenever you say pivot, most of the time people are going to see it as a sign of failure. But we looked at it as a positive thing, right? Because there were clear signs that indicated that we needed to kind of pivot. For instance, when we started off, we were a B2C platform. We were selling tickets directly to end consumers. Now that is a market that is a red ocean, right? There's too many players. The demand was there. In fact, our revenues were growing, but you're competing with big players with limitless funding and all that. And we were always playing catch up to a certain extent. But one thing that really got us to notice some of the points was one customer segment was getting the most traction for us, right? It was kind of basically contributing to 80% of our profit. So this is one of the things that I think it's important when you look at the data that you have. So we realized that we could actually capitalize on that area and probably focus on that. So for me, we had signs that no matter how much of progress we were doing, how much of work we were putting, the company was not growing in the right way. It didn't really have a clear path to profitability, like you mentioned. At the same time, we already identified a segment or a business model that was making sense. So that is why we actually decided to basically pivot and focus on that segment that was profitable to us, which was the B2B model. But I just want to clarify this. When talking about pivoting, I don't mean like ditching an entire company and starting off a different business model, not like ditching a tourism company and starting over a food delivery service. This is more like relooking at the numbers and then maximizing what you're good at. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, just for the audience who may not know, and then I think on the slide early on she had put you as TixCarte. So that was the B2C business that you were referring to, right? So now it's TixCarte, right? And that's the B2B business.
That's right.
Okay. So for you, actually, part of it was two things, right? I suppose, as you said, you kind of noticed that there were some things that could be better, and things were not as good as you wanted. And you mentioned Red Ocean, right? Because it was very competitive and stuff like that. Yeah. But then the pandemic was that like kind of cemented everything into place for your thinking? Is that how?
I think that. I think the need to pivot was there. The science was quite clear. But I believe that the pandemic really accelerated the need for us to basically do it faster. There were plans to pivot even before the pandemic, but of course, they gave us an opportunity to basically look back at our some of the things that we always wanted to do and kind of solidify the whole pivoting. I think it was really important that the whole team, the whole organization also understood the need to pivot, because sometimes it's always in the founder's mind. You think that there is an opportunity there, but the rest of the team doesn't know about it, right? So I think we took the pandemic as an opportunity to basically get everyone involved, and then we sat around and then decided that this is what we're going to do, and that really helped.
Okay, I mean that's a great point, and I think maybe let me expand on that. I mean, the kind of change that you introduce or have to introduce because you're doing that pivot. I mean, you mentioned the team. Were there any other? Did you drastically have to change your or impact your strategies, your models? What did you have to do? And I'll also ask Nadia after this. But what did you have to do, Parthiven?
Yeah, well, for me, I think it's one of the most difficult decisions I had to do. It's not easy to rebuild the company vision. Evaluating the position in the market itself. Your company has already taken some position in the whole industry landscape. Now you got to kind of reposition it, and the new branding cycle. All that can be quite overwhelming. Your clients, your customer base know you for a certain brand, and now it's slightly tweaked. It's pivoted. But having said that, I think there are great examples of companies that's pivoted. For example, even Slack. I mean, when they started off, it was a gaming company, right? And then they became one of the best collaboration tools. So yeah, I mean, from my personal experience, I think once you've decided to kind of pivot, that the data makes sense. Try to do it as soon as possible. This is coming from my personal experience. I think we sat on it quite some time, But if you know that you need to pivot, the data seems right, yeah, just do it sooner than later. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Nadia? I mean, how drastically did you have to, work with the team, or what did it impact your business, and what changed, I suppose, when you did that pivot?
I think at that point of time, coincidentally, and also fortunate for us as well, we were just starting ScaleUp Malaysia. So that gave us a little bit of an overview in terms of our potential and the mentorship. I could go on and on that. But then on our team as well, they've also noticed that market is changing. What do we do next? So I was quite fortunate to have them really jump on board and started looking into all these different services that we can provide. But then again, it's also a matter of reinventing the wheel to a certain extent, especially when you're starting a business from ground up. You kind of understand how it works. So if you say from a scale of A to Z and you're pivoting, you are starting somewhere in the middle, maybe M or N, right? And that kind of gives us a much more assurance in terms of the direction we're heading. We had the necessary foundation in terms of clientele, in terms of our ambassadors as well, that kind of understand how we work. And the next phase is actually making that into implementing that in terms of operations, in terms of technology, and that's still ongoing nowadays as well.
Okay. How did it, you mentioned, and again, I think coming back to the point about team, how did it really impact the thought processes of your team? And were they motivated? Did they like, oh no, we're going off on a different tangent right now? What was that take, and how did you manage it?
I think towards me, they seem pretty positive. I'm not sure what happened internally or the side chats that they have. But it was interesting to see everyone kind of jump in together. And I think for the pandemic, it's not a situation of just a few businesses that were impacted. More than 80% of businesses had to think back and kind of consider, what do I do next? What is the next growth stage, right? So the same thing happened for us. And again, as I shared earlier, we kind of go back to our roots, why we started this platform. And if you want to achieve the same goals, what are the services that we can provide with our existing foundation in terms of tech and operations? And yeah, it's still an ongoing effort on our part, but looks much better than how we were when the pandemic started.
Excellent. That's really fantastic to hear. Parthiven, how about you? Did the team weigh in well? I mean, did they take it well, or how did it work out for you?
Well, it was not all positive. Of course, there were initially a bit of confusion on why are we going down this path. Not everyone understood the need to pivot, because to a certain extent, I mean, we were making good revenues, but if you really deep down into the numbers, that revenue was not really translating into long-term profits. That was one of the biggest concerns that we had. That, like I mentioned earlier, I think we did with that previous model. There was no clear path to profitability. I know our revenues were growing, but at the same time, I think we were burning too much of marketing dollars and advertising. So it was difficult in the start to basically get the whole team to understand the need to do it. But I think now that we have pivoted, I think when the branding, the messaging has become a lot more clearer, the whole team is excited to actually start on this new journey to a certain extent. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's I think it's a good point about the team and stuff like that. And so it sounds as if there are both positive aspects that come out of the pivot, but also perhaps things that need to be dealt with, right? And perhaps it's not the something that you immediately think of doing. But what would you say, for startups who we always thought that they should have rabbit focus? Do you think that when, I suppose, is it important for a founder or an organization to consider this pivot? I know you mentioned about looking into your data, but can you weigh in a bit more about when you think anybody out there who's watching, what should be going through their mind? Should I pivot? Should I not pivot? What should I be looking at?
I think there's always a different school of thoughts when it comes to pivoting and diversification and all that. For my personal opinion, I think I think you should build your business. You should be great at what it does, right? When you are like a market leader, there will be pocket of opportunities that will open up in different areas that are related to your space. And that's where I think the responsibility of the founder is to, when they have an understanding of the market in depth, the founders can have an eye and can look out for different opportunities and different areas. So it's important for founders to basically understand the market, really see the different players, and then you can tap into different pockets of opportunities. But to a certain extent, I think it's not about just jumping from one business to another business all the time, but it's to look out for opportunities of revenues in different streams, in ancillary incomes and things like that. To basically to have maybe multiple verticals, but within the same space. I think that's the importance of the founder's role. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Nadia? What do you think? When is a pivot kind of when would you consider it?
In our case, it was pretty apparent. So we can't really just wait for cars to go outside anymore. So I think in terms of motivating the team, going to the why is always a good angle. Why do we need to pivot, or why do we need to expand our services? And with the why then comes all the other what and how, right? So having the team on board, making sure that they are also in the best mental state and motivated to do the changes. I think that was a good challenge for us. Before we pivoted or expanded our businesses, a lot of our operations were very much automated already. And for the team, it was kind of becoming quite redundant. They were doing the same thing every day. And now that we're pivoting into this different segments of advertising, now everyone is getting a new breath of ideas and also experimentation. So that was good experience on our part.
Okay. So we talked about a team. I mean, I suppose there are other stakeholders in your company, like investors and stuff. Was it difficult, convincing them of that the need for a pivot? And I suppose also even customers, did they get confused when you approach them again and say, "Oh, now we're doing this," or we're going to be doing this? What was your experience?
For our stakeholders, essentially, we just have to show the forecast and also the numbers. So they were very happy with that in terms of the possibilities. So we just assured if we stay how we are now, this is the most likely progression of what's going to happen in the next few months, given the current market conditions. So they were pretty supportive in terms of the changes we had to do. On our client side as well, we kind of received positive feedback. There were some certain clients that always been working with us from the get-go in terms of feedback basis on our platform. So we kind of worked on experimentation in terms of our new services, and that angle kind of got a lot more feedback and also appreciation from their side, which I think on our part and for other startups that are looking to pivot and expand as well, I think you should always try to get your first few clients that can actually grow with you throughout this change of pivoting or expansion of businesses.
Okay, great. Maybe Parthiven, did you have problems on your side, convincing stakeholders or even trying to convince a new customer perhaps because of the change in focus?
Yeah, I mean, for the stakeholders, it was all about drawing out and looking back at historical numbers to show that this is a better way to profits. In the long run, our team is a lot more geared towards the new pivoted idea. We had a small in-house development team that kind of suited what we're doing now. So all these reasonings basically amplified the need to pivot, and they understood. They were on board with us once we had to show the numbers. As for the clients, I mean, we didn't blindly pivot. I would like to add that because we actually took a lot of consideration, a lot of feedback from our clients. This was basically even when we were a B2C platform. Whenever we went and met all these merchants and all that, they were always complaining, "Oh, there's no proper software out there. There's no proper merchant solutions out there. So this was something that we had actually gathered from the past 2-3 years of our previous company. And we took all that and then kind of build it into what we've pivoted now, So they were happy to basically, when we went and approached them again with a new brand, they were more than happy to see us. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I just take one more question on, and then I think we'll jump into the program briefing, and then we have a few Q&A after that. Tell me, so I think we heard kind of a bit about the some of the issues that you guys faced and when they kind of occurred. I recall that maybe not for Parthiven, but for Nadia, it was at the height of the pandemic before you joined ScaleUp. And Parthiven was before that, right? It's cohort 1. So, but maybe you can just let us know a bit about, what are the issues that you had faced going into the accelerator, and what role did you think ScaleUp played in helping, get your head around it, or what role did it play, to help you with the business? Maybe since Parthiven is on screen, I'll just let you go first, and then we'll get to Nadia.
Yeah, well, I think to a certain extent, if it's not for ScaleUp, we would have not completed our pivot. We always had the gut feeling that we should pivot. Something that was not right, or at least we felt that we needed to pivot. But that's completely different than being backed up with data that justifies your decision. And that's where I think ScaleUp really came in and helped us out. To a certain extent, we were pretty stagnated. I mean, revenues were growing, like I mentioned, but not at a rate that we were happy with it. What ScaleUp actually helped us to do was basically, looking at really segments, looking at our strengths, looking at what made sense in terms of numbers. Like, for example, 80% of our profits was coming from a small segment, and that pattern was consistent over the months. If it's not for ScaleUp, I don't think we would have identified that, right? So we dig deeper, and ScaleUp helped us to basically lay out a plan in terms of how we can pivot, how we can basically change our strategies, and that's definitely something that really ScaleUp helped us to do. Okay.
How about you, Nadia? What yours was a different situation. Yours was really the height of the pandemic, I recall. Yeah. Well, how was it for you?
Yeah. I think. For us, we could already forecast in terms of the coming months how bad it's going to get. And coincidentally, we applied for ScaleUp, but on my part, I always had that reservation, because at the end of the day, I only have 54 hours a day. How am I going to allocate my time? But I would say it was a fantastic decision on our part. Through the program, especially when we were considering whether to pivot or not, whether to expand our services or not, having that backup and also assurance and guidance from the ScaleUp team helped tremendously, especially on my part. For the team, I try to put on a strong face. Hey, we can do this. It's not going to last that long. But no, we're also humans, right, as founders. And we do need that assurance that, hey, you're not going crazy. It's all right. This is something that has potential, and there are people that can hold your hand or kind of back you up when we are expanding into this new kind of services. So it was a really good experience for us, and I really hope for cohort 3 as well, for startups that are considering to join this program. It's not just a matter of another accelerator looking into reportings and all that. I think the ScaleUp team has provided us from different angles how to reconsider our processes, our business, and what are the best practices when it comes to growing and scaling up our operations and business as well.
Okay. Maybe on that note, maybe we'll just cut over to the program briefing, and then we'll just take a few questions before we get to the top of the hour.
Awesome.
Hi, welcome to all of you here today. I am Andre Sequeira, and I am here to give you an overview of the Cohort 3 Accelerator Program. Let's get started. As an early stage company, a lot of you will have many questions about what our program has to offer. Some people have called us intensive. Others have used superlative words like transformed when they've been through our accelerator. Others still have given us the tagline of being an MBA in 6 weeks. Whatever we may have been called, let me try to give you a better idea of what we actually have in the ScaleUp Accelerator program. Once companies are selected, we will begin the program with a kickoff that really sets the stage for the 20 companies. The idea of the kickoff is as much a get-to-know-you session between the ScaleUp team and the companies, as well as for the companies themselves to get to know each other better. At ScaleUp, we really believe in the idea and importance of learning from everyone, and that definitely includes the peers you find yourself with in the cohort. The first 3 months will take you through workshops, one-to-one in-depth sessions with the ScaleUp partners, and preparations for investment. I will expand on this part for the program a bit later. At the end of the 3 months, 20 companies will pitch to an investment committee, after which up to 10 companies will be invested in. Following on from the investment committee's selection, the top companies will proceed through the usual investment processes of due diligence. However, even during this time, the program will proceed with strategic planning being done between the companies and ScaleUp. Usually it is during this time that we will firm up each company's plans for scaling in the next 24 months. At the end of the 6th month or so, a demo day will be held for presenting the company's plans to other outside VCs and corporate partners. From months 7 to 24, the ScaleUp team will continue to work with the top 10 companies on different areas of focus, from product to sales and marketing, and of course, funding and financing plans. The ScaleUp partners all have expertise in different areas and will help you identify what needs to be done in their respective domains, while helping you to focus on what is important in your company's early development.
Great. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. Well done.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay. So let's take a jump to a couple of questions here and there. To both of you, I think there was a question about and I think you mentioned a bit about marketing and rebranding. When you pivot, did you have to spend a lot on your rebranding? And do you have a really good rebranding strategy, or do you have a good rebranding strategy you could share? Ladies first, maybe in this case, Nadia?
On our part, again, there wasn't much of a pivot. It was more of an expansion of services. When we started out, we still went with the tagline "Crowdvertise," using the crowd to power advertising initiatives, and it kind of made a lot of sense for us to kind of expand our offerings through the same concept as well. But we needed to update our website, our content in terms of our engagement with brands, but there wasn't a full-on rebranding exercise. But I think moving forward, we are looking to building our brand presence, and before we do that, we kind of need to nail down these new services a bit better. We're still in the I would say experiment phase, getting what feedback from clients. We've been getting very positive feedback, but from there, I think making it an official service is still a few months ahead.
Okay. And how about you, Parthiven? Yours, I think, might be even more drastic because you had a B2C website, and now you're doing B2B. So what was it like for you?
Yeah, well, for us, I think the main challenge was it was a completely different name altogether. From a TixCarte to TixCarte, which is a completely different entity. We had to go through the incorporation, company incorporation, the whole setting up, and all that. And then comes the whole branding, right? It's a new name, it's a new website, the whole marketing kit. With the previous company, we had a track record of about 3 years. Everyone was familiar with the name and all that. So it was not easy. Like I think what Nadia mentioned, I think coming up with a whole website, the whole setup and all that. So we did spend some amount of money in terms of branding, and it's an ongoing process for us. More importantly, is also to ensure that the investors are not confused with the whole rebranding exercise. But it did help because now it's completely a different entity, and when clients look at us, when investors look at us, they know that clear separation of what we are doing. So it's not really confusing anymore. So it was really a good thing that we went down that path. Yeah.
Okay. I think one of you mentioned before. I think with Parthiven, you said that pivoting shouldn't be seen as a sign of failure. But there's a question about what would you say to a founder who's thinking about pivoting, but maybe considered, maybe is concerned about such a thing is being viewed as negative in that sense. Yeah.
I don't think it should be seen as a sign of failure, because I think it has to be, a pivot has to be done based on looking at understanding the market even more, understanding the landscape, the segment. It's not like you're just jumping from one industry to another. This is something that you have done. You're very comfortable with the industry, and you have realized that there is a potential in a different area. So for me, like I mentioned earlier, I think once you've identified that, I think do it as soon as you can. Secondly, I think don't scrap all the work that you have already done. Pivots don't necessarily require a radical change. There might be some parts of your business, maybe the sales process or maybe your customer data, that you can reuse that. There's some things that would have really worked for you. And I think the third part is, over the years, you would have got a lot of feedback from the customers. Try to see whether you can extract all that feedback and then implement it in your new pivot. That's the advice and recommendation that I can give for anyone that's looking into pivot. Don't look at it as a negative thing. There's a lot of companies that have gone through pivots and done successfully well.
Do you think they should be talking to someone, and who would be the right person to talk to when you talk about pivots? Reach out to other founders, or
I think you should talk to ScaleUp.
How about you, Nadia? How to address?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Parthiven. Finish that thought.
No, that's fine. Sorry. That's all.
Now, how about you, Nadia? What would you advise a founder who is, maybe concerned about the negative aspect of perception of negativity around it?
So I think in terms of pivoting, it's also a need. You have to consider whether it is necessary. So there's also the saying that if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? But there's also another side of it. If you can improve it, why not? So looking into different aspects of your business, if you feel that it is for the better, it does increase your potential in terms of market share or growth or even revenue streams. I don't think it's a bad decision to go ahead with. But on that note as well, making sure that it is minimizing the risk involved when it comes to pivoting, looking into very well planned out expansion, getting feedback first. Is there a demand that is required for this pivot of business? That is an angle that you need to consider, and not really just pivoting for the sake of, hey, I want to expand my business a lot more. Let's kind of do this. Yeah.
Okay. And maybe take there's kind of a sideline question about the impact of the pandemic. Now that you guys have pivoted, and have kind of moved the business in different directions, what's your thoughts? Is you seeing post pandemic? Will the business just boom just like that? What are your thoughts about how it will impact your business with the new business model and the pivot that you made? Nadia,
okay.
You're on that thought. Yeah.
I like to think, and I hope so, we made the right decision. But on that note, it is a calculated risk and also potential that we looked into. Again, in terms of client receptiveness, it's really positive so far. I think the next challenge is making sure that we can provide quality services at par with our competitors as well.
Okay. And for you, Parthiven, are you looking at revenge travel? Is that something that's going to make a big impact for you?
Yeah, well, I think there are very few industries that was impacted as bad as travel and hospitality. I think we impacted 80-90% of revenue was taken from the pandemic itself. But we actually spent a lot of the time doing the pivot. Spending a lot of time doing our tech development, backend development, and all that. And we are kind of excited to basically to be ready there when that whole travel revenge happens, hopefully next year. And there are signs that it's going to happen. You look at European cities, there's a lot of demand for travel already.
Okay, great. We actually reached the top of the hour, so I think I'll just wrap up. So I think that it looks as if that there's a lot of reasons why founders should not be negative about pivoting. It's just a question of when, and kind of looking at your data, or looking at your business again through new eyes, either through customers or feedback or whatever. Sounds like it's a necessary evil for entrepreneurs to look at, right? Perhaps maybe just to close up, maybe some last words from you guys. Nadia, what would you like to tell founders out there? Anything, you can even plug your business if you want.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Thank you. So I think foremost in terms of the startups that are looking to join Cohort 3, right? There is no loss, I feel, in terms of joining ScaleUp Malaysia. I think when we started out, we weren't really sure about what we don't know. And ScaleUp Malaysia kind of broadened our possibilities in terms of, hey, there's so many angles of growth that we can look into, and maybe certain issues that we feel is such a big issue in the company, and trying to the different perspective. It's not that big of a deal, right? Certain things that happen in the company can be a challenge, but with challenge comes possibilities and comes opportunities, and having that kind of support and guidance and mentorship is something that you can't really get out there when you're just a solo or a two-founder company trying to make it happen. And shameless plug-in, if I may. So for any businesses or startups that's looking to looking into advertising or marketing, come and experience how crowd advertising works. We also have a webinar happening tomorrow that kind of dive deep into the insights of how we do things and why crowd advertising is here to stay. And I look forward to having more people, partners, brands that we can work with in the future.
Sounds good. Parthiven, last words from you. Ooh, has he frozen at the top of the hour? I think he has. Okay, maybe Parthiven, we'll let you go on that one. You will be watching Cohort 3 Roadshow. This is our series of roadshows in the run-up for Cohort 3. So if you're interested to apply, please go to our website at scaleup.my/cohort3. And for more information, to view some testimonials or just to apply, go ahead to that website. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Andre Sequeira, and I'm signing off on behalf of ScaleUp Malaysia. Thank you.